Now let's talk about the shape. So they can have different shapes, and there are hundreds of different shapes. But as we are talking about beads for removal today, there are three main shapes that you need to know. Cylinder, also known as drum, corn shape, or some people call it flame because it looks like a candle flame. And then we have cone, which is triangle. Cone, the one that's, ice cream cone, not the one you can find on the trees. Now, these shapes are the most common for product removal, and they all can be carbide as well as ceramic. I just had to took some as an example. Now, this one, cylinder or drum, may also have a different shape. Sometimes it's flat on top, sometimes it's rounded on top, sometimes it's golden, sometimes it's silver, so it might also have a slightly different size and shape, but it still works the same way. So this is the great bead for removal, but I personally think that it's awesome, but only if you have experience. I do not really recommend using that if you're just getting started because of its shape. Because on top, it's not narrow, and once you go too close to the cuticle, it's pretty easy to damage it. So I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, it's a great one, but only if you know what you're doing. You probably can see so many nail bloggers using it on Instagram, on YouTube, and they use it properly only if you can actually feel the E-file very well. Now we have corn-shaped bit. This shape means it can come in different materials and sizes. Once again, it can be ceramic, it can be carbide, it may have a red, blue, or green band. And this shape is a bit more convenient because of this narrow tip, a little bit easier to use, especially if you're a beginner. You can get closer to the cuticles. You can get closer to side walls. You can go around the cuticle without worrying that it may damage something. But there are some disadvantages about it as well. I'm going to share them in a few moments. And then we have a cone and triangle bit, which once again may be ceramic or maybe carbide. This one, I think, is one of the easiest one to work with. So if you're totally not confident about your skills, if you're just getting started, I think this is the easiest one to start with. The only disadvantage about this one is it's a bit hard to find it. I noticed that it's not as popular on Amazon, or it's just not very common. But carbide bits with this shape, there is something you can see something more often. If you will take a look at this one, the drum one, these flutes, they're all the same because of its shape, which is great and means once you start filing the nail with this one, for example, it can be carbide as well. You see the carbide drum bit. So once you start filing the surface, you may take the product off evenly, which is awesome. But even if this part doesn't have any abrasive, so it's soft, there are no flutes there, it's still kind of hard to reach the areas such as cuticle area or sidewalls with this part because it's square. So like I said, this bit is great, but it's not really suitable for beginners. Now we have a corn shape, and here the main disadvantage is because of its shape. So you see, unlike here when we have just a straight line, or here we have a straight line, here we have a curve. And nail is also like any nail is also curved. It's not just some flat surface, right? Which means once you start working with the nail, you will constantly need to change its position to not damage it, all right? And another thing I wanted to point out is the flutes. So as they get closer here, you can actually see they're smaller. They're like small, and here they get a little bigger, which means you will have a little less abrasive in this area. Sometimes this area gets clogged pretty often once you start working, and it means that this area will not work as good anymore, so you will need to rely only on this part. And finally, the triangle. Once again, here, the flutes, even on this picture, you can see it, right? Here, they're small and they're getting bigger and bigger, just like, ooh, we have a Christmas tree here. So that means that you will have more abrasive right here on the bottom because they're bigger, right? You can see they're bigger flutes. And here closer to the edge, they're super small. So the abrasive will be all different. And you will also need to adjust. But this shape is just super easy to work with because it's straight. Again, there's no curve, which means you can work with almost the entire surface of it right away on the nail. These three shapes, I mean, they all can be used for removal. They all have their own advantages and disadvantages. There's also another shape which looks a lot like this one, but without the top. So it's like a tapered cone, which is good as well. It's very similar to this one, it's just it doesn't have this sharp point. And by the way, if you're working with this one, make sure it does not have super sharp point. If it does, you can take some other bead or even a hand file and just, file it all off a little bit so it will get rounded and you will not touch the client's cuticle. What means purple band? I've seen some unusual colors such as purple, orange, even pink bands. So sometimes manufacturers add these unusual colors just to stand out. Sometimes it means something in between. So purple, normally it's between blue and red, but this is like not common. You cannot find it like a lot.